Today we are going to take down the Astro City. Alright, so let's get started and start taking this thing apart. So guys, this front panel comes off fairly easily. We have the 5 screws here. Now just be aware that in these Japanese candy cabs, they use a Japanese industrial standard type of screw. And it's a real, like a solid cross as opposed to a typical Phillips screw head. Now you can get them out with Phillips screwdrivers, but if they are in really, really tight, you can end up damaging the screw head if you use a Phillips screwdriver, because it will just cam out and will burr the screw. So be really careful with that. And it's as easy as that. The first thing to take off is this back panel here. Okay, and that's removed, and we can see that we do have the original speakers in here. I've got the Sega logo on the back here, so that's good. At least all that's in there and it hasn't been taken out, although I probably will replace these speakers. A lot of people seem to do that. It's got a fluoro in there. I don't know if that works. Obviously we haven't hooked up any power, so not sure. But at least the top here hasn't been gutted. Okay, so I'll swing around the cab, and now we need to take off the front panel and then get to the monitor. Okay, so the next step is we need to take out these 3 screws here, and we need to unplug this guy because that goes up to the speakers at the back. So I'll get these unscrewed and then we'll take off the front. Okay guys, well that removed those screws pretty easy enough, so we should now be able to just remove this whole fascia. And there we go guys, pretty easy so far. I like how these cabs come apart. Now of course the big job is getting this monitor out. The monitor has its chassis board all on the same cage, so the whole cage should just come out with the monitor. So what we're going to do first is we're going to get the power out of the monitor by earthing it. So I'll swing that around and let's do that process so that we can get the roughly 20 to 30,000 volts that may be stored up inside the tube earthed. Don't really want that power running around as I pull the monitor out. It's usually pretty safe, but just to be sure, it's always a good idea to earth the monitors before you take them out or move them or do any work on them. So let's do that now. So first of all, we need to remove these 2 screws on this back access panel. So to ground the monitor, you need some form of earthing strap. So I just created this out of an old car jump starter cable. Connected up to a screwdriver here. It's all heavily insulated. And so the intent is that I'll put this on the monitor chassis, and hopefully the ground differential is enough so that the electricity passes from the monitor through into the chassis. It gets dissipated, and as a safety precaution, I'm wearing some rubber-soled shoes, and you can wear rubber gloves as well, but I don't think that's too necessary. But anyway, be very careful with this. So we're going to connect this clip up to the ground, which will be on the chassis, and then we're going to use the end of the screwdriver here to just knock the anode cup off the monitor, and we may get a little bit of a crack. So let's get this hooked up and get this monitor earthed. Okay guys, so we're ready to just take this anode cap off, and I'm just double checking to make sure the earth is on there, and I'm on my haunches here, so I've still got rubber soled feet going to the ground. Make sure I don't touch anything else around here at the same time. Put that under there. And off it comes. And we can just double check the screwdriver in there. Make sure there's no charge coming out of there, so we're all safe. So before we take the monitor out, we need to disconnect it. So there's just one Molex cable to remove there, so I will do that. And the other thing is that the little daughter board here with the monitor controls, usually this will be fixed to the front of your cab, so you might have to unscrew that first. Mine was just dangling in the cab, so it was already loose. So just remember to take that one off as well. Take off that one Molex, and then you can lift the monitor out. So let's do that now. There we go, just a bit of a sideways wiggle there, and that comes straight off. Okay guys, the fun part is getting this monitor out. And the first thing you need to do is take off these 4 bolts up here. Now there is other screws which have a Phillips head on them. Don't take that out, because that is just the monitor itself and not the whole chassis frame. So you need to take the whole chassis frame out. So, and just so you know, the monitor won't actually fall out once you take those bolts out, so don't be concerned about that. Okay, and the last thing we need to connect is, just before we take the monitor out, is this little earthing cable here. And then we'll be ready to take the monitor straight off. Now guys, the fun part, and that's lifting this heavy beast out of the cab. Now I've got just some gardening gloves, obviously not for electrical protection, we've already earthed the monitor. But really just a protection against the hands with these metal parts. They can be a little bit sharp, so just be aware of that. Good idea to just whack on some gardening gloves. So let's get this beast out. It was pretty heavy. Certainly be easier with another person, I think. But anyway, the monitor is out. We're pretty much down to the final part of the chassis here. And I think what we'll do is we'll try and remove some of the metal front covers, the doors. And I think some of the inserts around the doors can be removed. And then they can all be sanded down and repainted. So let's get all those doors off, and then we're pretty much down to a shell and we can get on with the cleaning process. Okay guys, so what we're going to do here is, obviously this one just comes straight off, so that's no problem. And these 2 doors, this one here, take the coin box out. This one has just those screws up the side there and around this ridge here. So I'm going to take all of those out to take out this whole subframe. And this one, this door up the top here, if we have a look over the top, we can see that there's 3 screws at the back there, and we can then take out that door as well. I'll probably remove this cage down the bottom there as well, and then we can get to the bottom here and give it a really good clean, guys. Okay, and we get to the wiring as well. A lot easier like this when the cabinet's apart to do all your wiring, your rewiring. I'll be back soon, guys. I'll have these doors all removed, and then we're going to start the cleaning process. Now I do have this problem. I do have a split on the underside panel here. Now that's not something that can be replaced, so I need to think about if I'm going to bog that up and fill it or not, or leave it as it is. Alright, a quick update as we go through this. The cleaning process is going well. The still some black marks, of course, where the paint's actually come right off, so they'll have to be just patched up a little bit. But otherwise, it's all coming nice and clean. And I've had another look at this crack on the corner here, and I can see that there's a little support bar that I've just removed, but effectively that braces that bottom piece up to the top here. And it looks like at some stage someone's come along and probably sat on the corner and then that's cracked it. And I can sort of tell because you can see here this is bent. Yeah, it's bent up. So that's sort of bent, or bent down actually when the person or something's, pushed down on it. Then that's cracked the fiberglass. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend this piece back into shape and get it maybe just even slightly up a little bit, and then once that goes back in there, it will pull the cabinet up, and that will close this gap up when there's pressure on it. And you can sort of see there, it will, once that gets pulled in, it's going to pull it together and will hold it there. But what I'll do also is I'll use some filler, some bog, fiberglass bog there, and I'll put some bog in there, and hopefully when that pulls up, it will it will dry and hold it closed. So that's what I'm going to do, guys. I'll do it off camera because it's all a bit messy with this bog, but that's the plan. So I'm going to get to it and get that sorted now. So that now is filled. I bogged that up, and it seems to be holding firm. No flex in that at all at the moment. And of course this was bent back straight and screwed in to bring the tension back up. So I think with this bog, once it properly cures, it's pretty hard now, but once it properly cures, that should keep that from splitting any further, and I can get some touch-up paint to cover that. So that's the plan there. A few things that I want to touch on now, where we're up to, and the first thing is the cabling. Now I pulled all the cabling through, and it's a dog's breakfast. It really is. So first of all, there's a whole pile of extra cables in here, and considering this one has it's got Astro written on it, so that looks like original factory harness, and I would suggest that probably went into the original power supply, which we no longer have. So more than likely we're not going to need that. But if we go back up to the other cabling that is here, there's a series of cables connected to one little Molex, and that Molex just is connected down to power. Let me take the top of this back off a minute, just hang on a second. Okay, that's better. Now we've got a little bit more light. So yeah, so that Molex was connected down to power, but nothing else. So all of this is not connected to anything. And I think that was the Molex connector that I took off the monitor. So if that's the case, we've got a problem, because it's all our red, green, blue and sync. I guess those cables which should be going to the jammer harness, and they're not. That's what I suspect. So anyway, I've got to figure that out. And then, next mystery, these cables here all follow through to the audio plug, which then goes off to the speakers. So I suspect that these cables all, well, normally on a jammer harness they would go back through onto the sound on the jammer harness, but no, these come through to a series of cut and spliced cables. So not sure, this may have gone to a separate amplifier maybe. I don't know, obviously don't know what was in here before, but it clearly looks like it's been hacked up a little bit, which is a shame. And then through to the main jammer harness. Well, here we've got, I don't know if this is supposed to be standard in here. I'm not familiar with these cables. I wouldn't have thought. I mean, this does look like a factory harness, but if that went into the original power supply, maybe. Just guessing at the moment. And then we've got a number of cables that are all cut. Now, interestingly, they are all the same colours as the ones that are cut over there for the monitor, which, so that could very well be the ones that need to be reconnected. I'm not sure yet. And then right up to the harness, you know, we've got the old cable sticking out here, on that harness there, connector, and then, you know, on the actual jammer connector, I'm not sure what they've done here. So the cabling, guys, is a bit of a mess. It's a bit of a mess, because really I just need standard jammer, because I'm just going to run a Raspberry Pi, and just at least to start with. So, but you know, the standard jammer harness on here on the Astros, I mean, they're all rigged up to go through to the harnesses for the control, so I can use this one. I would like to, but it does seem to be a little bit hacked up. Clearly audio should be going back to jammer, and if this is all the video stuff, then that really should be going back to jammer. So I'm either going to have to do a lot of rewiring or find another complete harness that connects up to these standard points to make it easier. I'm not sure yet, guys. I'm going to have to do a little bit of research. I haven't really looked into the wiring completely. Need to check to make sure this is a 240 volt step down transformer, and I'm not sure if it is. Got 300 watts written on there. I cleaned it off a little bit. That's the only thing I can see, so I need to get that checked out. Now, one other thing I thought that I might do, I wasn't originally going to do it, but I thought I've come this far in terms of pulling the cabinet apart. I really do need to clean in the inside there, and it's a bit difficult sort of cleaning through there on the front. And so I'm not far away from actually being able to separate this front piece away from the back. And I believe the way that that is done is I need to take out these screws here on both sides, and then there are 3 screws which I have on this side half taken out, and obviously 3 on the other. I was talking about before, I don't know if we can be able to see this. If you see those screw heads, this is what I was talking about before, about these Japanese industrial standard screws, and they are a dead cross. They're not a Phillips head, which has a slightly rounded piece in the middle where the Phillips head slots into. Everywhere else in the cab I've been able to use a Phillips screwdriver to remove pretty much every other screw. They don't seem to be tightened down very much, but these ones here have been really ratcheted down, probably back in the factory. So I tried to undo one with a manual screwdriver, and it's really difficult because you can't get leverage with your screwdriver close to the side of the cabinet here. And I managed to get one slightly undone, but on the other side, and the middle one wouldn't budge at all. So I had read that you know, other than obviously getting the Japanese industrial standard screwdrivers, which you can get them on eBay, I think about 24-25 bucks for a set, should really get a set. But even with those, you're going to have a problem because these are so tight. You really need one with a ratchet or some sort of T-handle to take them off. So if you don't have a JIS screwdriver, then you need to have an impact or use an impact screwdriver to get these guys out, which I have here, cordless one. And I tell you what, they're in so tight that it barely gets them undone. The first couple of attempts to turn, the head just stays on the screw and doesn't budge. At least it doesn't spin though and burr the screw head. But after a couple of impacts, it slowly releases the screw. So I did do the 3 on the other side and got them half out. So I thought I'd just stop on this side and just show you. And there you go, you can see that's now come out, but yeah, it was pretty tough. So I was actually with one hand holding the back of the cabinet and forcing myself, you know, against the cabinet with extra force, and then the impact screwdriver just slowly gets those screws out. Okay guys, so I'm going to carry on. I'll take these three off. Right, so I got those ones out, and I can see that it's starting to come apart here, but not quite. I've just laid it on its back. So you can see these last three screws along this side need to be removed as well. And the whole bottom plate will come out with the front piece. So need to remove those extra three screws on both sides. So I'm going to go do that now, and then we should be able to pull it apart. And almost there guys, got those screws out, but also there are a row on the back down the bottom here. These ones, 1, 2, 3, 4. So just need to get those out, and then this time the whole thing should slide apart. So I'll just get that done, and then we should be there. And there we have it. Front just slides away from the back, and now you could easily get in and clean, and be a lot easier now, even just doing the rewiring. So it was a good step to go and go that extra mile. Alright guys, well that's it for today's session, and it's taken a good part of the day, and most of that was cleaning really. I mean, taking this apart actually was a little bit easier than I thought. That last little step could have been difficult if I didn't have that impact screwdriver, but it was okay. I now have to focus on cleaning out the remainder of the inside there, and then really looking at this wiring. I've got to sort this wiring out before we look at the monitor, and of course then we're going to have to test the monitor and the chassis to make sure it's okay. But once I get the jammer harness sorted out, and if the monitor's okay, we stick in a Jammer Pi or a Raspberry Jammer. I always call it a Jammer Pi, I like that better, but a Raspberry Jammer, and we could be playing games. Please subscribe, of course, if you haven't done so already, and thank you if you have done. Please like the video if you like it, tell your friends, all that good stuff. And until next time, take care, and ciao for now.